The Torah was inspired by older texts that date back thousands of years before then. The Hebrews used Sumerian and Babylonian texts as references for several of their legends. The Garden of Eden story, as it appears in Genesis, is an extremely boiled down version of those older texts, and gives us almost no context about what's actually happening in those earlier days. The legends of the earliest humans, as described by the Sumerians, are describing the exact same thing that the Torah was trying to tell us. One of the trees that the Lord told Adam and Eve that they were not allowed to eat from was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Next to that, the tree that's most well known in the Garden of Eden was the tree of life. The tree of life didn't just give us life, the tree of life also extended our life. They theoretically could have lived forever as long as they continued to have access to this tree of life. Adam and Eve became mortal because they were denied access to this tree of life after they were kicked out of the garden. Norse mythology too has a myth that's based on the same Garden of Eden story. The goddess Idun was in charge of a garden where she cultivated apples that were responsible for the youth and vigor of all of the gods. But the evil trickster god Loki kidnapped Idun so that she could no longer give these apples to the other gods. Most artists use an apple to represent the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but there's nothing in the myth that actually describes the fruit of knowledge. Instead, the leading theory is that the fruit of knowledge was something more like a pomegranate. In Greek mythology, Persephone was known as the seed of the fruits of the field, but Hades, the god of the underworld, kidnapped Persephone and took her to the underworld. And while there, Hades tricked Persephone into eating pomegranate seeds, which trapped her in the underworld forever. The Greek myth is an almost identical story to one that comes from ancient Japanese mythology, where the goddess Izanami is sent to the land of the dead as a punishment for giving birth to the god of fire, Kangutsuchi. Izanami's brother and partner travels to the underworld in order to retrieve her, but when he finds Izanami in the underworld, she had unfortunately already eaten the food of the land of the dead, and therefore was trapped in the land of the dead forever. There are a few different ways that we can interpret this story. Perhaps what it's saying is that all of humanity is doomed to follow Eve into the underworld. We're all doomed to die because we're all bound by her original sin. Jesus is supposed to grant us eternal life, along with new bodies. Death will be defeated, and his followers will get to live forever. And I think that what that means is that humanity will be granted back access to the tree of life.